No, you're not going to tempt me away from writing this week's episode unless you've got some Cadbury's cookies. Hello everybody, welcome to the Re-Review, the series where I get to replay and reassess games from my favourite gaming era. I'm Brian, also known as UK Jen Zoidberg, and I've been expressing my opinion about Amiga games, to anybody who would listen, since the late 1980s. There was also a time when those opinions were published in the pages of either GamesX or Amiga Action. This series is all about taking a look at the reception that games received from the magazines upon their original release, and seeing whether or not those opinions are still valid all these years later. Today's episode is about a game that signalled the arrival of one of the UK's most enduring developers. So join me as I take a fresh look at Lure of the Temptress from Revolution Software, which was published by Virgin Interactive in 1992. If you were an adventure gamer in the early years of the Amiga, chances are you will have played a game by either Sierra or Lucasfilm Games. For a 5-year period between 1987 and 1992, they were the undisputed kings of the genre. If you were to take a look at the Adventure Game Super League in issue 33 of Amiga Action, you would see that 13 out of the top 20 titles are from one or the other. In mid-1992, a new pretender to the throne arrived with the intention of shaking up the established order. The aptly named Revolution Software had been set up in 1989, and amongst their founders were Charles Cecil and Tony Warriner, who had spent much of the 1980s working together at 8-bit publisher Arctic Computing. Even though they were fans of the Sierra adventure games, they always believed that the storylines were fairly low stakes. Revolution's objective was to create games with serious storylines, but still didn't take themselves too seriously. As Cecil himself put it, something in between LucasArts and Sierra. The first game to emerge from this remit was 1992's Lure of the Temptress, a medieval set fantasy adventure tasking the player with saving a town from the clutches of a demon. It was also the first game to use Revolution's system called Virtual Theatre, where all the game's characters lived in a world independently of the player's actions. Somewhat ironically, their second game was bringing Sierra's King's Quest VI to the Amiga. They used the Virtual Theatre system to convert the game rather than Sierra's own engine, and the result is a game that was a huge leap up in quality from Sierra's usual Amiga fare, and the reviews reflected this. Over the years, Revolution have struck a nice balance between producing original games and working as a developer for hire, and that's probably why they've managed to stick around for over 30 years. Their next game was the sci-fi epic Beneath a Steel Sky, which if you played it on the Amiga came on a whopping 15 discs. It was developed in collaboration with comic book artist Dave Gibbons, whose work includes both Judge Dredd and Watchmen, and it is regarded as one of the best adventure games on the Amiga. The CD32 version is even fully voiced, making that the best version to play. Whenever somebody mentions Revolution Software, this is the game that I think about first. For many people though, they think about Broken Sword Shadow of the Templars, which came out on the PC in 1996. Unfortunately, their then publisher Virgin Interactive had no interest in releasing the game on the PlayStation, so Cecil contacted Sony Computer Entertainment himself, and they agreed to publish it on the console. According to Warriner, sales of around 60,000 were expected, but the game went on to sell well over 300,000. To date, there have been 4 more adventures in the Broken Sword series, as well as a remake of the original that came out last year. A 6th game was announced at Gamescom as part of the Xbox showcase in 2023, along with a teaser trailer and a few screenshots, although nothing has been heard about it since. Let's hope we hear more about it soon. In 2000, the team tried their hands at something a little bit more action-orientated with In Cold Blood, an espionage adventure that was published by Sony on the PlayStation and Ubisoft on the PC. Reviewers praised both the writing and the story, but said that the gameplay suffered from far too many flaws. Their most recent game was the long-awaited sequel Beyond a Steel Sky, which came out in 2020. Now though, let's go back and see what the reviews said about Lure of the Temptress when it was originally released. I can remember Lure of the Temptress coming into the office for review in the void between the last issue of GamesX and when I joined the team on Amiga Action. I'd like to think that I would have reviewed the game had I been given the opportunity to do so. I did, however, include it in my personal top 10 games of all time when Amiga Action produced our Top 100 supplement. You can check out episode 39 of the re-review to learn more about that. So let's start with Amiga Action issue 34, where it was inexplicably deemed only worthy of a single page review. This might have something to do with the fact that it was reviewed in the same issue as Monkey Island 2. It still managed to earn a score of 91% though, with the reviewer claiming that the game was destined to be considered one of the year's best. It also placed second on the Adventure Game Super League. Monkey Island 2 loomed large over the reviews in both Amiga format and the One Amiga as well. I don't think this affected the scores though, as in Amiga format it received 92%, the highest score that the game received in any review, and 90% in the One Amiga. CU Amiga gave it 89% and said that what Revolution had produced was superior to the output of Sierra, but still lagging behind LucasArts. There was a similar sentiment expressed by Amiga Power too, although they praised both the atmosphere and the lack of disc swapping, on their way to awarding it 88%. From 6 reviews, the average score is a very respectable 89.7%. On the Lemon Amiga website today, the user score is 8.2 from 125 votes. Now it's time to find out what I think of it though, as we move on to the playtest. Some nice little incidental animations that set things up for what's to come. I am playing this from a hard drive installation. The game came on 4 discs, but the amount of disk access if you play it from the floppy does kind of break the flow for this intro sequence in particular. I do think that intro sequence sets things up quite nicely for what's to follow. So here we go. Game starts with me in a prison cell. Oh, there's a crack in the wall. Let's have a look through that, shall we? Oh no, there's somebody on the rack. There. And this is actually how you get out of the prison cell. It's a good little introductory section to the game, this really. Teaches you all the little intricacies of the game's control system. There was a knife lying on top of that barrel that was just about visible. Oh. Ah, God. So yes, just like the Sierra games, it is actually possible to die in this. So let's try again. Right, what you actually have to do here is you have to close the cell door and then lock it. There we go. So that locks the guard back in there. Nice. So this is the guy that I could see through the hole in the prison cell. Yeah, so let's use the knife on this cord. Right, this guy's name is Rat Pouch. As you can already see, this is different to other adventure games that were released at the time by the fact that characters will walk in and out of different sections of the game and not just stay where they were. Right, so, okay, yeah, I remember right here, you have to ask him to do it. So tell him to push the brakes and then finish. Blimey. Okay. And so that ends the introductory section to the game, and we'll now find ourselves in the village. So I now have to go and find the blacksmith. And in a regular adventure game, that would obviously involve just going straight to the blacksmith because he would obviously be there. Because of the virtual theatre in this one, he could be wandering anywhere around the village. I remember some of the tips that Virgin gave out to reviewers with this game when it came into the magazine. Did involve making sure that you talk to everybody. You can, if you feel it necessary, ask Rat Pouch for tips on what you're supposed to be doing. I need to find where the blacksmith is. Who's this guy? Ah, he's Luther and the blacksmith. Right, okay. There's definitely a lot more life in the location in this game than in a lot of other adventures. So in the early part of the game, there is a lot of wandering around, getting to know people. Just something as simple as having the fire and the patrons animated and the sound just adds so much life to it. Can you be unlawful for any persons under the age of 12 to buy alcohol? A pint of your strongest beer. I don't think that's going to be advisable. So it's not a particularly big village, which is always good when you're just starting out in the game. Oh, who's this guy? Isn't he? He's Malin. And what's Malin? He's always into buying and selling. A large heavy metal bar. Right, I need to take that to the shop. Right, okay. Ewan, that's the guy I've got to take the bar to. So all right, let's see if I can give it him. Oh, he's giving me some money and a blue jewel on a delicate silver chain. But it really does seem like life is just carrying on in this village around me. I mean, we're not talking Skyrim levels of immersion, but for 1992, this was pretty astonishing. There was one other shop that I've not been in. That was the one that had the sign outside it with the which had the bird on the sign. Go back there. I'm just going to bribe a stranger without talking to them first. Let's see who he is. Morcus. You could tell that I was a gentleman despite the smell. Right, that's nice of you. No, don't. I'm not talking to Rat Pouch. I'm talking to the guy. Talking to Morcus. Rat Pouch telling the bar lady that she reminds him of his mum. Okay. So especially in the early stages of this game, a lot of the puzzles do revolve around talking to people and getting information, which is a great way to showcase the excellent writing that the game has. Was Grub the name of the guy who was lying in the middle of the town square? Ah, yes, that is Grub. Okay. So I have a lockpick. Right, okay. Oh, he's acting. I must act fast and brew a potion of transformation. That seems like a lot of very specific information. Am I going to have to make a potion of transformation for myself? So, certainly a lot more detail in the visuals in this one than your average Sierra game that came out at this time. I think if you've watched my episode about Police Quest 3, you'll know my feelings on how lazy some of the Sierra ports to the Amiga were. There's more detail in the backgrounds and using 32 colors in this than you got in any of those games. Drink the flask. I think the interface could be a little less fiddly. I'll definitely give it that. The most potent ale ever brewed. That's certainly right. Okay, that explains a lot. Right, so I think we now need to use that lockpick on the door that I couldn't get in before. Right, can I use the lockpick? I think this is one of those instances where your companion character can do things that you can't. So let's give the lockpick to him. Right, so tell him perhaps to use the lockpick on lock and then finish. That was easy. Wow. Okay. Oh no. I'm going to run away from the school. Is he not just going to follow me everywhere? It's looking like he is. Oh no, 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 no. Well, seeing as I haven't got a save game to go back to, that's probably a good place to end the playtest. It's very enjoyable. It looks nice. It's got some innovative systems to it. But let's get to my final feelings in the re-review. I could still kind of remember how I felt about Lair of the Temptress first time I played it, but playing it again has brought it all vividly back into focus, both positive and negative. The two strongest aspects of the game are undoubtedly the world and the writing. The virtual theatre system really does enliven the town and make you feel like the people within it would go on living without your presence. All of the characters that you meet feel fully fleshed out, and none of the humour felt forced. It also looks fantastic too, particularly impressive with the fact that it's on an A500 with only 32 colours. The locations that you visit are rarely fully static, full of detail, and, thanks to a good use of ambient sound effects, I was absorbed throughout. While the interface is quite innovative, particularly the way that you can issue commands to your companion, there are times when I found it to be a little bit too fiddly, and I would end up clicking on something that I didn't want to. The thing that I can remember the most about the game though is how disappointed I was in the ending, which felt a little bit too abrupt and a bit of an anticlimax. Despite both of these things though, I would still recommend the game. The Retro Game Super League for point-and-click adventure games was one of the first ones that I ever produced, and I actually think that I placed Lure of the Temptress a little bit too far down, so I've corrected that. There are, however, still many classic titles above it. This was, and is, an impressive debut from Revolution Software, and if you only know them from Broken Sword or Beneath a Steel Sky, you really owe it to yourself to go back and play this one as well. The score that I'm going to give it today is 8 out of 10. Hey, has anybody told you about the VIP memberships that we do right here on the channel? Not only will you get early access to most of the videos that we post, you'll also get exclusive access to full reruns of any live streams that we do, plus exclusive membership content. You'll even get one of these little badges that you can put on your name whenever you comment on anything, just to show people how long you've been a member for. If that sounds like something that might be of interest to you, it's only £1.99 a month, and you can find full details of how you can become a member in the video description, or just click the link on screen right now. You'll even get to help us choose what games we cover in future episodes of both the Re-Review and Retro Game Super Leagues, so why not check it out? Thank you for watching this episode of the Re-Review. I really hope you enjoyed it. This has always been one of those games that tends to be forgotten about because of all the great things that the developer went on to do after it, but it's been a fun one to revisit. I'd love to hear your memories of playing it in the comments. If there are any games that you'd like to see me cover in future episodes, please email your suggestions to reviews@ukgamingnetwork.com. I've already got a fairly long list of games that I want to talk about in future episodes, and it's getting longer all the time thanks to the suggestions that I've already received, so thank you for that. There's a new video every Friday on this channel, and starting next week I'll also be live streaming on Tuesdays from noon. VIP members get to watch all the videos that we post earlier than anyone else, but liking and subscribing to the channel is also a really good way of showing your support for what we do. The Re-Review will be back in 2 weeks' time, looking at Supercars 2 from Magnetic Fields. Until then, happy retro gaming, bye for now.